Hi, welcome to Abundant Living with VO. Are you someone who's been wondering about CBD, THC, cannabis oils? Are they good for me? Are they not? If that's a question you have and you really want to know some hard scientific facts, I invite you to stay tuned because I'm going to give you some good answers. Hi, welcome to Abundant Living with VO. I'm so glad you decided to join me tonight. Believe it or not, I've actually had a few requests in the last couple of days to do a video on this topic. So for those of you, first of all, know if you send me requests, I take it seriously, and if I can do a video on it, I will. And that's what we're doing tonight. So there is a lot of talk right now, and there's a lot of interest in this particular topic. And the reason there's a lot of interest is because there's a lot of talk around it right now. And that topic is, as you can see on here, CBD and THC and cannabis and the oils and hemp. Are they good for me? Are they not? And so many people are hearing they're therapeutic, they're good, but you're wondering, is there a lot of science to back that up? Is there any science to back it up? Does science say something different than that? And there's a lot of confusion out there. So what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to give you science to show you what science says on it. So there are a lot of things science does know about this right now, contrary to what you're hearing. But there are also a lot of things science doesn't know. It's kind of in the infancy stages of figuring this out. But I can tell you this, there is enough scientific evidence out there to really give you a good foundation for understanding what these are and whether they are good to be used in our bodies for therapeutic benefit or not. Okay, so I hope that helps. I hope that kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to do. But before we can start talking about CBD, THC, and some other stuff, we need to understand the system that it impacts in our body, right? Because that's what good science does. You have to understand how it affects your body and how it's going to work. So we're going to start there. And we're going to start by talking about the endocannabinoid system. Okay, if you've never heard of that, it's the system in your body that these particular items, or I guess you could call them chemicals, affect. Okay, the I can't even talk tonight. The endocannabinoid system is also known as the endogenous cannabinoid system in your body. Alrighty? Here's a little knowledge nugget for you, okay? I do these in other videos, so if you've never heard that before, you'll hear it tonight for the first time, or if you've been on another video, you've heard me say that. The endocannabinoid system, this is a system that can most positively be impacted by essential oils, guys. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're talking. We're not talking about essential oils tonight, but I do want to give that as a caveat. As you know, I'm a big proponent of essential oils. Okay, so what are endocannabinoids? Because endocannabinoids are what impact the endocannabinoid system. Endocannabinoids and the receptors that they communicate with induce physiological responses. Okay, and these receptors, the endocannabinoid receptors, are found all throughout your body. So where do you find endocannabinoid receptors? Where might they be found? They're found in the brain, vital organs, and connective tissue. So hearing that, you should know and pretty much understand they're found all throughout your body, because the brain, all your vital organs are all throughout your body, and connective tissue is as well. Okay, so they're found all throughout your body. Now the role of the endocannabinoid receptors, that's important too. So we just talked about where they're found. They're found all throughout the body. They're found in the brain, the vital organs, and the connective tissues, right? The endocannabinoid receptors. But what's the role of these receptors? So the role of them is to maintain the stability of the body's internal processes while dealing with fluctuations in the environment outside. Simple as that. So that's what these endocannabinoid receptors do. So what particularly in your body is influenced by endocannabinoid receptors? So what different responses or issues in your body, we should say, are influenced by endocannabinoid receptors? I'm going to write those down on here so that you know, okay? So the different things that are influenced by these receptors are your immune response. This is important. Our immune system keeps us healthy, and it also helps correct things when we're not healthy. Your memory. This should not be a surprise to anybody to hear that this is impacted when we're talking about these two things, as you have probably noticed that. Inflammatory response. This is huge, and I'm writing this on here for a reason because this is going to connect to some things we talk about later. Disregard my bad writing. inflammatory response. And appetite. That one shouldn't be a shocker to anybody either. Okay? So those are the 4 things that are influenced in your body by endocannabinoid receptors, or 4 of the things. Okay? Here's another knowledge nugget. Something that's good to know. And you see me looking over here because I'm just checking my notes because I want to make sure I cover everything. So endocannabinoid receptors, they are a vital link between the brain and the rest of the body, coordinating communication between different cell types. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Endocannabinoid receptors are a vital link between the brain and the rest of the body, coordinating communication between different cell types. So these are very important receptors in our body, like I said, that we're still learning more about. But doesn't mean they're new, they're just new to us learning a lot about, but they're very vital in the body. Here's something you want to know too. Scientists think there may be several different types of cannabinoid receptors. There might be quite a few different ones out there. Scientists don't know how many exist, but what they can tell you is they know of 2 very specific subtypes that have been identified so far of cannabinoid receptors. And we're going to talk about these, and these are important, so I'm going to write them down for you, okay? So as of now, there are 2 subtypes of cannabinoid receptors. And those are, the first one is the CB1 receptor. This is expressed mainly on nerve cells in the brain. So where you're going to see this receptor in the body and where it's going to be active, mainly nerve cells in the brain. Okay? The second subtype of cannabinoid receptors that's been identified that we know exists and we know its function is called the CB2. And CB2 is expressed mainly, sorry, don't need to write all that. CB2 is going to be expressed mainly on your white blood cells and your immune system. So white blood cells, which make up your immune system, but they don't solely make up your immune system. That's why we'll say white blood cells and your immune system. Okay? So remember how I said some of the things are influenced by cannabinoid receptors, immune response is one, CB2, in your immune system. Okay, it's where those receptors are found. So you're gonna see a lot of links here and keys where things link together and how they're connected. So that's why I'm writing it down and repeating it. So hopefully it makes sense and it sticks with you. Now, this is important to know where these are, where they work, and what they do. Here's something else I want you to remember on this, that these receptors, these cannabinoid receptors, they must be acted upon by an outside influence in order to be activated. Just because they're there and exist doesn't mean they're going to be activated unless they're acted upon. And that's what cannabinoids do. They act upon the cannabinoid receptors and activate them. Make sense? Okay. Something I want to point out here is research shows that activating the CB1 receptor influences memory processing and pain regulation, but it also induces a psychoactive effect. So, research shows activating this CB1, so I'm going to put a star by it so you know. Activating the CB1 receptor is what's going to induce the psychoactive effect on the body. Keep that in mind as we get ready to talk about CBD and THC in depth. Are you still with me? So here's another knowledge nugget for you. Research shows that CB2 receptors, okay, that we talked about right here, they support a healthy nervous system, proper immune function, and have a soothing, relaxing, or they have soothing, relaxing properties on the body. They're primarily able to do this through the ability to regulate inflammation. So CB2 receptors are key. Now we just talked about, let me say that again so you understand what they do. Research that's proven shows These receptors, CB2 receptors, support a healthy nervous system, proper immune function, and have soothing, relaxing properties on the body, mainly because they're able to regulate inflammation in the body. Now, if you haven't been on any of my other videos before, or even if you have, this is worth repeating and remembering. What have I told you is the key cause of almost all disease in the body? Inflammation is where it starts, right? Any kind of issue or disease starts with inflammation. And inflammation a lot of times starts from being micronutrient deficient at the cellular level, or that, along with other things causing inflammation, will wreak havoc on your body. So these receptors are key. They're key to regulating a lot of things in our body and things that are important to warding off something small like inflammation. It starts off small, but it turns into something else. Okay? So now we know what these receptors are. We know kind of what we're talking about, what we're starting with, or what's affected in our body with CBD and THC. We know what cannabinoids are, we know what cannabinoid receptors are. So let's talk about CBD and THC. So what is CBD? What is THC? So I'm going to write this out for you too. I don't think you can see the green, so I'm not going to use the green marker because I don't think you can quite see that on the screen. So let's talk about CBD first. CBD. Let's talk about what it stands for so that we know. Okay? CBD is canna, making sure I'm spelling it correctly. It's cannabidiol. That's where the CBD comes from. That is the name of it, cannabidiol. Right? Let's talk about THC. Let me put this on here and then I'll write some more down for you. And then I'm going to have to start erasing so that y'all can see some more. This stands for tetrahydrocannabidiol, or cannabidiol, however you want to say it. So the H is your hydro. I'm laughing because like Captain America. Hydro. Doesn't take a lot to distract me, as you can see. Okay? CBD, cannabidiol, THC, tetrahydrocannabidiol. Okay? Or cannabidiol, however you want to say it. So CBD and THC, they are both chemicals found in cannabis. They both come from cannabis. So they're both what we call cannabinoids. Both of them are cannabinoids, and they both come from cannabis. So what's the difference? CBD, and this is what I really want to point out and want you to understand. CBD is the major non-euphoric component of cannabis. So it's the component of cannabis that does not cause the hallucinogenic or the psychotic effects. All right? So what are some of the benefits? And I'm going to circle it so that you understand that. It's the one, CBD is the one that doesn't cause that. So some of the benefits of CBD include it's an anti-inflammatory, it's an anticonvulsant, it's an antioxidant, and it's also an antipsychotic, like we've said. So there are benefits to CBD. Here's another knowledge nugget I want to throw in here, right here, because this is important for us to understand. Almost all cannabis that's sold or used recreationally is very low in CBD. Almost all of it is extremely low in CBD, which means it has very little to no CBD in it. Remember that, okay? THC. So what is that? We just talked about CBD, what it is, that it's a non-euphoric, the major non-euphoric component of cannabis, okay? THC, on the other hand, it has a long list of health benefits, but the clinical use for it is highly controlled and highly limited due to the psychoactive effects. THC is the major component of cannabis that has psychoactive effects. That's why it's illegal. Side note here. Here's something I do want you to understand. When I say cannabis, if you're wondering, if you're someone thinking, well, what is marijuana exactly? Marijuana and cannabis are the same thing. They're equivalent. We're not going to use the term marijuana because we're talking science, so I'm going to use the scientific names, the scientific terms, but marijuana is the same thing as cannabis. I want to be very clear on that. There is no distinction. They are the same. All right? Something else, another little knowledge nugget here. THC is illegal in almost every state in this country. Not all. I don't know exactly all the exceptions. There's only a few, but it is illegal in almost every state in this country. Here's another knowledge nugget for you. Research heavily shows that CBD has very little effect on CB1 receptors, which is why it doesn't have the psychoactive effect. Has very little effect there. But why is that an issue if you're using CBD? Because why do a lot of people say they want to use it? For pain relief, right? Or at least that's what I hear a lot of people talking about being the biggest reason why they're looking to use it. And even people that, whether you agree with it or not, that's not what this video is about, and I'm not going to get into that with you, but even a lot of people that use it recreationally for some type of pain relief a lot of times, or some kind of issue they have, a relief. Well, here's the problem with CBD. Like I just said, research shows it has very little effect on CB1 receptors. So it doesn't have any psychoactive effects, which is good. But CB1 receptors are where you're going to control, is where pain is controlled. Because CB1 receptors are found where? Where did I say those are found? Mainly in the brain, right? So if you don't have any effect on CB1 receptors, you're not having any kind of an impact on pain. So just make a note of that. Something else I want to write on here that's really important. So I'm going to I'm going to erase this. And you can always rewind or go back if you need to read some of this. But I'm going to erase this because I want to write this down because this is so important for us to know. And I think too many of us are missing this, or we don't know this. We don't realize this. CBD is not effective apart from THC. It's just not. CBD is not effective apart from THC. Now, and you may get a little bit of effect from it. You're going to get a little bit, but again, what did I just say? It has very little impact on your CB1 cannabinoid receptors, right? It's the main impacts are on the CB2. So, and in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit more about why even the impact on the CB2 receptors isn't really that high. There's an impact, but it's minimal. It's small, as where the CB1, it has no impact. So you may be getting a little bit of health benefit, but you're not getting the pain relief you need if you're just using CBD. And what we just talked about, THC, was that it's illegal because of the psychoactive effect, right? So are we seeing a problem here? You can use CBD, but you're not really going to get pain relief from it unless you pair it with THC. But the problem with THC is that it has a huge psychoactive effect. That's why it's illegal. But that's also why, so you can't get it, or you shouldn't be able to get it. But now I'm telling you that most CBD on the market has THC in it, because if you're taking any CBD that's effective in any way for pain relief, it's only effective because it has THC in it, because CBD does not at all affect your CB1 cannabinoid receptors. It can't do it without THC. So that creates a quagmire, right? It does. That's where the problem is right now. So let's talk about, and we'll dive in a little more with the solution I'm going to offer for you. If you're someone that's looking at this, I do have a solution for you. But again, I want you to have all the science. So let's talk about CBD oil versus hemp oil, because that's really popular now. A lot of people like to equate those to essential oils, which they're not the same as essential oils. I want you to understand that CBD oil and hemp oil is not the same as an essential oil. It is an oil derived from a plant, but it's not the same as those, okay? So please understand that. But let's talk about what the difference is between CBD oil and hemp oil, because a lot of people are confused and they don't know. And there is a very big difference. Ready? So let's start off with hemp oil. And I'm going to notate this for you so that you have it seen. Hemp oil comes from hemp seeds, and it contains little or no THC. Okay? So, I'm going to write that on there. It comes from hemp seeds, and it has no or very little THC in it. So that's a good thing, right? You're not going to get the psychoactive effect. Cannabis oil. That's a different story. Different monster altogether. Okay? Cannabis oil has THC levels above 0.3%. That's high. On average, they're usually between 5 and 35%. And I'm erring on the side of caution to say between 5 and 35, but normally they're in the 30 to 35%, or they're at least 15% on the low end is what's being seen when it's being tested. Okay? So cannabis oil has THC. And they are above 0.3%. And remember I said, on average, they're going to be between 5 and 35%. Those are what your levels are going to be. So cannabis oil will have a psychoactive effect. It has THC in it. There's no way it can't, because it directly impacts those CB1 receptors. Now, cannabis oil contains both CBD and THC, but they're going to be in differing ratios depending on the variety of the plant. Not all plants are the same, and not all ratios derived from the different varieties of the cannabis plants are going to be the same. So, and this is something you need to keep in mind and understand, that this is a new industry, and it's not as heavily regulated as your pharmaceutical industry and some other things, and they have their own issues going on. Trust me, we all know that, and a lot of people on this channel know that. But because of that, and because science is still figuring a lot of things out, and trying to think how to put this, in some extent, the use and how it's blown up in the industry is outpaced the science at this point in a lot of ways. So there's a lot of things science is finding out now that it's already out there. But again, with all those different varieties, you really don't know what variety or strain is in what you're buying or what people are using. So that's something to keep in mind too on the cannabis oil, right? So hemp oil, we said, has no or very little THC. So hemp oil is legal to purchase because of the low to no levels of THC. However, cannabis oil is illegal to purchase because of the THC levels. And they are very dangerous to your nervous system. THC is. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. That's why it's illegal. So I'm going to do this right here so you understand. Cannabis oil is illegal. Is it being sold? Yes, it is. Be careful. Okay, we'll talk about the long-term effects of THC in a minute. I'm going to show you a lot of research studies on that. Hemp oil too, again, it contains little or no THC, but remember what we said? CBD, because that's going to be CBD in it, it has little or no THC. Remember that doesn't have any impact on your CB1 cannabinoid receptors, which means it's not going to help with pain relief. And that's normally why most people are going to these. Righty? So here's why I'm going to say, from a scientific standpoint, neither one of these are good therapeutic options. I would say no to both. Now I'm going to put an X on both. Here's where I'm going to give you my scientifically based opinion. I don't think either one of these are good therapeutic options. Here's why, based on the science. One, cannabis oil is illegal because of the psychoactive effects of THC, which are very dangerous to your body. And again, we'll discuss some of that in a minute. The other one does not have any, has no effect on your CB1 receptors, which is where pain lies, and it has just a small effect on your CB2 receptors, which is why CBD is normally paired with THC. So again, you have to be careful here, because if you're getting any kind of effect, positive effect from hemp oil, it's because it's paired with THC. And here's the problem with it, and here's what we need to understand about a lot of the products that are on the market right now. The stuff that's out there, whether it's the marijuana that's out there, or it's the oils, or the different things you're playing with, they are so much stronger these days than they were back in the 70s. And a lot of that is because a lot of it's been made legal. People are able to sell it. People are able to use it. So the strains have changed in the way they've grown these plants, and they've really increased the strength of the output and what you're getting. So, and you don't even realize that. Unless you know the grower and you know the science and you're testing it, you have no idea how strong this stuff is. It's very different than the stuff that, whether it's your grandparents or your parents or whatever, were promoting in the 70s. It's not the same. They are not the same product. We need to understand that. It is very different. We're dealing with a very different entity these days. And we need to understand this. And science is showing us this. So that's what we're going to talk about. What are some of the potential side effects of cannabis oil? I do want to mention that. There's a few that we know. One, it's known to decrease your ability to concentrate and think. If you've been around anybody who's had THC in their system, that shouldn't be a shocker to you. Second thing is, it leads to short-term cognitive impairment. These are proven scientifically. So we talked about what they are. We've talked about what they do. I told you my scientific opinion is that neither one of these are good for therapeutic use. So then you may be saying, what do I do? Or what would you recommend from a scientific standpoint that works, that's natural, and that's safe? Right? Because you want it to work and be effective. And hopefully if you're on here, you want it to be natural, so it's not going to put any toxic chemicals in your body or harm you. And you want it to be safe, right? Here, I'm going to recommend something because I do have something for you. Alrighty, so I'm going to erase this. I'm going to write this down so that you can see. And I'm going to tell you why. And give you the science behind this, because not enough people are familiar with this. I want to introduce you to a product called Copaiba. It's a cool name. Copaiba. Okay? So what is Copaiba? Copaiba, I can't talk again. Copaiba is an essential oil. It comes from the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. So thank you, Brazil, and that part of the world, for providing this to us. Copaiba, here's why it's so effective. It has an ingredient called BCP, or beta-carophylline. Let me write that down for you. You do this so you can see, so I'm gonna make sure I'm spelling it right. Beta-caro. It's important to me to spell things correctly, so you'll see me checking. Oh, left out the Y. And filing. Or, as you heard me refer to it, BCP. Okay? That's the active ingredient in Copaiba that makes it so super effective on the body. Okay? Here's why it's effective. BCP has cannabinoid-like properties. So it has properties that are like cannabinoids like CBD and THC. BCP, though, here's what's unique about it and so cool about it. It directly targets the body's CB2 receptors. And remember why that's important? Well, let me say this. It directly targets the body's CB2 receptors while ignoring CB1 receptors, which supply the highest association with cannabis and THC cannabinoids, like we talked about earlier. Here's why directly targeting the CB2 receptors are important. Because remember what I said CB2 receptors control? Immune response, inflammatory response. It's very important systems in our body. And remember what I said that we need to control in order to prevent disease or to correct disease? You've got to get inflammation out of the body, and you've got to strengthen your immune system, which means you have to target these CB2 receptors. And BCP does that directly. Okay? So the good news is copaiba can deliver major benefits without the high because it's targeting the right receptors without the high. And here's something else. Here's a little knowledge nugget for you. Copaiba has been used in traditional health practices since the 16th century. So it's been used for a long, long time. It's just new to us in Western society because there's a lot of things that are new to us that we need to kind of find our way back to. Things have been done for a long time, but let's just say it's been around for a long time and been used very effectively. So what does copaiba use to support? What are some systems it can support? Supports the immune system, supports your nervous system, cardiovascular system, digestive system, your respiratory system. It targets so many different systems in your body very effectively. This is a great, great product to start using to get a lot of different pain relief, reducing inflammation, helping your immune response in your body. It does all that, okay? I want to tell you a little bit about how you get copaiba. It's derived from what's called the oleoresin of the copaiba tree. And the process of harvesting it is similar to like tapping a maple tree to get syrup. And I won't go into the whole process of how they do it, but it's very similar to that. It's kind of cool. You can check out videos online and watch it if you want to see. But guess what? Copaiba is not the only essential oil that has BCP in it, or beta caryophyllene. Black pepper, melissa, clove, and rosemary also have BCP in them, just in smaller amounts. Copaiba is so effective because it has more than 50% of BCP in it. It has one of the highest amounts. And as a matter of fact, copaiba from a certain company, and if you watch my videos or know me, you know which company I'm talking about. Copaiba from doTERRA has more than 60% BCP, the ratio in it. And that's because of where they source their oils, how they source them and stuff. And I can only say that with doTERRA. It's the only company that I know the ratio is that high in. So in conclusion, BCP acts directly on CB2 receptors while CBD and THC have almost no effect. Now, THC has a psychoactive effect. And as we said, CBD has really no effect on CB1 receptors, and it has a very small effect on CB2. So you're not getting the effect you need from it. And let me write this down. BCP is 85% more effective on CB2 receptors than CBD and THC. It's 85% more effective. This is hands down a much better option for trying to relieve pain or trying to affect any of those systems in your body or inflammatory or immune. It's much more effective than the other ones and with no negative side effects. So if you're looking for something that's good and therapeutic and you're looking for something to help you with different issues, this is the direction you want to go. Because it's 85% more effective than CBD and THC. That's the science. That's science. So I want to talk to you. I want to give you a little more science. I want to give you some specific stuff so that you can walk away and go, okay, you're saying there's science, so I don't know if I'm quite buying into this whole CBD and THC stuff, which, by the way, everything I've told you, you can look up, do some research, but I'm giving you a starting point to so you know where to go. So let's talk about scientific studies that exist. And I'm going to give you some recent ones. There's only one that's going to be a few years back. The other ones are going to be very recent. There's a lot of studies out there. Why they're not being told or advertised, you can speculate it. I have my own opinion on that. I'm not here to give that. But I can tell you there is scientific research out there to back a lot of this up. So I'm going to give you quite a few different studies to kind of notate what I'm talking about. And I'm going to tell you where you can find them. One is, and I'm going to read this to you. There's a study that finds the teen brain volume changes with small amounts of cannabis use. So studies have proved with just small amounts, like smoking a joint 1 or 2 times, just 1 or 2 times, can cause a change in the brain volume in teens. And here's here are some of the findings I'm going to read to you. Just consuming 1 or 2 joints seems to change the gray matter volume in teens. The gray matter in your brain. Well, why does that matter? Okay. Well, this study shows that there was more gray matter volume in teens who had used cannabis just once or twice by the age of 14. Why this matters? Gray matter is involved in the fear and emotion-based processes, and it's found in your hippocampus. Your hippocampus is involved in memory development and spatial abilities. This can be a problem. That was found, that study, you can find it in the Science Daily journal, and that was published January 14th of this year. Another study, here's study number 2. Here's the title of the study. Study shows exposure to cannabis and stress in adolescence can lead to anxiety disorders in adulthood. Here's what this study found. Numerous preclinical studies say exposure to cannabinoids, THC in particular, in adolescence may increase the risk of onset of psychiatric illnesses in adulthood. You're going to hear another study later, or actually 2 other studies, but one that specifically focuses on this a little more in detail. That particular study you can find in Science Daily as well. That was done January 8th of this year. It was published January 8th of this year. The third study says CBD and marijuana may worsen glaucoma, specifically eye pressure, which is a precursor to causing glaucoma. Here's what the study showed. The study was done at Indiana University, and it shows the major component in medical marijuana, or CBD, worsens the primary cause of glaucoma. How does it worsen it? It causes a rise of pressure inside the eye, which again, like I said, is a precursor of the cause or the onset of glaucoma. It showed that CBD caused an 18% increase in the pressure for 4 hours inside the eye after the use of CBD. Now, it also showed this. When you combine CBD with THC, the pressure lowers because THC actually lowers the pressure in the eye. But remember what we talked about with the problem was with THC? There's a lot of negative side effects. You get the psychoactive side effects. And it showed this in the study. This study was also, you can also find in Science Daily. This was done December 17th, or published, I should say, December 17th of 2018. The fourth study I want to talk to you about, and here's the title of it. Adolescent cannabis use alters development of planning and self-control areas of the brain. Let me read to you what this study found. Teen or adolescent marijuana use may alter how the neurons function in brain areas that are engaged in decision-making, planning, and self-control. That was the University of Chicago at Illinois who did that study. That can be found in Science Daily as well, and that was published November 6, 2018. These are recent studies. The fifth study I want to point out, here's the title of it. Cognitive changes in offspring, so that would be children, of heavy cannabis use. The study was done on rats. And again, I point that out because we need to know that a lot of scientific studies sometimes are done in people because they've already done the study on animals, but studies always start in animals first. So this one's just in the infant stages. That's why I say it was in rats. But in next, if it's safe, they'll move. Well, because it involves children, you don't want to necessarily move to a clinical trial on people. So let me say that it won't be safe to move to that. But here's what they found. Prenatal exposure to cannabis may cause meaningful changes in brain development that can negatively impact cognitive functioning into adulthood. So these pregnant rats consuming cannabis, they saw that it might, because in some cases it did cause meaningful changes in brain development that would negatively impact cognitive functioning into adulthood. This was a Washington State University study, and you can find this in Science Daily, and this was published November 8th, 2018. Now the next two I found really interesting and really informative. And the sixth one I want to point out, this was an NBC News article, and here's the title. Chronic pot use may have serious effects on the brain according to experts. Let me tell you a little bit of what they said. Now, they did say this. Here's a caveat. More research needs to be done to really understand long-term effects of marijuana use on the brain, our body, and behavior. And that is true. Any scientist worth their weight will tell you that. There's a lot more studies that need to be done. But of the studies that have been done and what they're seeing a lot of the same things consistently. And the next study that we're going to talk about is actually one of those studies we need to see that gives you a lot more research. But I recommend this. I recommend reading this because it's a great story from an individual's experience. They talk from their experience about what happened to them. Okay? And they're not alone in this. This is just one of many, but the way this was put together was very balanced and I liked it. This you can find at NBCnews.com and it was published November 11th of 2018. The last study I want to talk about, I put it last because it's one of the more exhaustive, one of the more sound scientific studies that we have to date to show the effects of cannabis use. The title of it is, Cannabis Usage Shows a 3 times increased chance of developing schizophrenia. Let me just stop right here and tell you, well, first of all, let me tell you, that was published in the Lancet. That is the most prestigious medical journal overseas in Europe. Doctors use it all the time for things. And things that get published in there have a ton of research behind them. Okay? And this was an exhaustive study, and I'm going to walk you through that. But let me read that title to you again, and I want to make a point on something here. Cannabis usage shows a 3 times of an increased chance of developing schizophrenia. If you've never been around someone with schizophrenia, you don't have any family members or friends with any kind of schizophrenia, any kind of mental disorder, you probably have no idea just how horrible that disease is, not only on the individual, but how horribly it impacts their life and the lives of those around them. Nobody would want to bring that on themselves or anyone they love, especially not by doing something that they could prevent. That's why this article is something we all need to really pay attention to in this research. We really need to consider, especially if you're considering CBD or THC. Here's what it showed. It was a 15-year study, and it was a 15-year follow-up study of more than 45,000 participants. So this wasn't just 1 or 2, there was 45,000 participants, and they did it over 15 years and followed up. And it showed that daily marijuana use substantially increases an individual's chance of psychosis. It wasn't just a little, it substantially increased it. It showed this as well. Up to 50% of new schizophrenia cases in London, Amsterdam, and Paris were linked to marijuana use. In this study, that they proved scientifically that 50% of the new cases of schizophrenia in these 3 places where marijuana use is legalized rampantly, it was tied to marijuana use. 50% of the new cases. The active ingredient, which is THC in the marijuana, and here's what I was telling you earlier. This study showed it's now 20 to 30% more powerful than in the 1970s because of the way it's being grown and harvested. That's why the marijuana and the weed of the 1970s is not the marijuana and the weed of today. We have to take this into consideration. And the last thing I do want to say on this study showed is the places that have legalized recreational marijuana, the instances of cannabis-induced psychosis have tripled. I'm going to say that again. This study showed the places that have legalized recreational marijuana in Europe that it studied, those places where they've done that, the instances of cannabis-induced psychosis, and schizophrenia as part of that, have tripled. This, like I said, you can find this study in the Lancet. It was published May 15th of 2015. You can Google it and find it. So let's wrap up with this. Just saying, I hope that you were able to get some good science tonight and understand the science behind CBD, THC, and BCP, which hopefully you've learned about tonight, oils. And understand if you are looking for something that's going to give you a therapeutic benefit, then you need to find something that's not only going to work and be effective, but it's going to be safe and it's not going to have a harmful effect on your body. And the only thing from a scientific standpoint I can say that to with good scientific sound knowledge is BCP. As of right now, science cannot say that about CBD or THC. Now things may change in the future, but as of now, there's not enough science to say that. So that's what I wanted to bring you tonight, the science on it. I hope this helped. If it did, please put comments below. Give me a thumbs up on this. At the end, let me know you liked it. And if there are more videos, if you haven't seen them, please check them out. Thanks for coming by tonight. So glad you stopped by, and I'll see you on the next video.